After 2 long weeks, with a lot of things happening in the world of football, we bring you a review. It was already time to review what's going on. So we're gonna bring you, of course, your follow and the good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks?
I was calculating my head. Has it been 2 weeks?
So let's go with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good.
The good, well, I think the good is, in this Euro Cup, is the fact that we're seeing small teams not being so small.
Not being so small, or not playing so small, I guess, in that sense. And I guess that's thanks to having so many more teams added this year, which I guess in the beginning, this is something we were criticizing, saying, there's a lot of teams, it might be too many games, it might be games that we don't really want to see.
I still think we could have seen a 16-team tournament, but maybe the small teams would still got there, especially Iceland.
That's true.
Or maybe Wales. But yeah.
Wales as well.
Wales as well. I think it's nice to see small teams, the Cinderellas of the tournament, being expected to be kind of like, how do you say, pushed around by the bigger teams.
Right.
But we haven't seen none of that.
No, and I think another good thing is that it's good news for international football because that means that in these small countries, that football, the level of football is increasing. I mean, see in Poland, obviously it's a little bit a team that's a little bit above, I would say, Wales and Iceland, but I think that means that it's growing and that good players are coming not just from Italy, England, and Spain, where we usually see these players in France, but I think they're coming from all over the world. I think that's good news for us.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that makes me very happy is that now maybe the differential factor between a big team and a small team is just now the talent. Because if you think about it now with all this, globalization and information, probably like the training sessions and the tactics and everything these teams do, it's pretty much the same. I'd be very interested in seeing like a training session of Iceland.
Right, in terms
and
of
a training
preparation.
session, exactly, in terms of preparation, like the
resources.
Exactly, all that. And I think that's fair and it makes football more competitive. And, it gives us things like, seeing England being knocked out from a Euro Cup by Iceland.
Yeah, that was... I won't say that was funny. It was
funny for me.
It was painful because Spain had just lost. I mean, I was in pain because Spain had just lost, and so seeing England lose as well, I was like, well, I guess it was sort of a...
I mean, I'm Peruvian, I have no... So yeah, it's, I know what it feels, and yeah, it was funny. I mean, why not? Why not? And everybody's laughing at us all the time, and it's time for me to laugh at, England losing to Iceland. Why not?
They've made their exit.
Yeah, they've made their exit, so that was the good, seeing small teams. The bad, I think, would be more or less the...
Touching on Spain.
Exactly. Maybe the inaction that Spain in the last couple of years has had to not see the signals.
Right. I mean, I think coming off of the World Cup exit, not even making it out of the group phases, and I think this was sort of their time to redeem themselves and say, hey, we're coming in as still European champions. Let's see where we are in the European stage. And I think, we had high hopes. Their first game against Czech Republic was great. I think where they really went downhill was against Croatia. Nothing was really changed. And in this last match against Italy, granted, we have to obviously tip our hats to what Italy did because they were enormous.
No, of course, there's
they were
always
amazing.
2 teams, yeah.
But I think, and a lot for me has to do with Vicente del Bosque,
I think it's that, it's not seeing some signals and maybe try to pretend that, okay, because it worked before, it's just going to keep working.
Right, because the same formula.
And we saw a lot of players that didn't have a chance, that could have made a difference in the game against Croatia. Maybe even yesterday, I think players that had more hunger, that had made the merits to make it to the national team and didn't see any minutes, like Koke, for example. They saw some minutes against Turkey, probably. And then Lucas Vázquez could have, I don't know.
We could have used Lucas Vázquez. I think Del Bosque doesn't like change or maybe is scared to make changes. I'm not exactly sure because he let players that are sort of more veteran, well, they were the veteran players, play the most minutes. I mean, this last game that they played against Italy, I think was just a disaster.
I think Spain or Del Bosque is the kind of guy that will, just keep things going when they're working.
Right.
But if you need to make some changes, I don't think he has the spirit or anymore. Right. But anyway, that would be the bad, to see Spain knocked out of the Euro so early.
For all the talent they have is what bothers me. But anyways.
And the ugly would be definitely, we talked about this, created a lot of controversy with our users saying you guys are crazy saying that was a bad game. We didn't say it was a bad game.
No, what I said was boring, which is a poor...
It was boring. It was footballistically a boring game. I don't think you can deny that. Of course, it was intense and exciting.
But South American matches
will always be intense, exactly. But I don't think that, because you see a player running a lot and a lot of fouls, that makes it a good game. But anyway,
Anyways.
I think the ugly was the selection of the ref.
Yes.
I think that guy was not ready.
Was not ready. Or, I mean, maybe he wanted, I'm not exactly sure, maybe he wanted to make a spectacle, but I think the first half, especially the first half in the final, was a total spectacle, a mockery. It was too many yellow cards, and it was, I mean, it was a physical match. To be fair, it was very physical.
But knowing that it's going to be a match like that, like, you cannot send off a guy like I'm not sure it was a red card for the Chile.
There weren't red cards and the double yellow cards. It was too much, and he was losing control of the match, and people were, I mean, at some point as a player, you say, like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about.
They were losing respect to the ref.
Right, you lose total respect for the referee, then you're always, everything that he calls, you're gonna argue against it, and it just, the game was totally stopped, it lost its flow, and I think, especially losing two players, or each side losing a player in the first half, the guys were exhausted. And it really, I thought, just really messed up the flow, and I think in a final, you have to, obviously both teams are wanting to win this final, this means a lot for them, and they needed, the referee, I think, can't be a determining factor in a match. And when you give two red cards in the first half, you really destroy.
So we've made it as the ugly. Like, we don't know. I don't know. It's a speculation. Like maybe the FIFA or the Confederation owed some favors to the Brazilian Federation and put this ref. It's like, hey, you're gonna be the ref of the final.
Was a joke to me.
But I don't think he was ready. So it kind of, as you said, cut the flow of the game. But anyway, that was the good, the bad, and the ugly for us. Follow me to see what the press has to say today. After, of course, maybe surprising knockout of Spain from the Euros, let's go with Marca. Marca starts with something that makes me kind of laugh because they say, oh, we're not the best anymore, as if this kind of came as a surprise. I think, news, Marca, you haven't been the best for a while now. We saw it after the World Cup in Brazil. I think it's pretty clear that Germany was the best team there, and coming to this Euro Cup, maybe nobody counted on Italy, but now they're showing that, they're candidates to be the best, and still Germany. And Spain maybe, haven't been able to turn on that cycle and regain that competitive edge that was evidently lost in Brazil. And maybe they were expecting, with the inertia of the tiki-taka, of all these things, that just, they were going to win the Euro Cup again with Morata and Nolito. I think it was not enough for the purpose. But yeah, Marca, of course, in this fatalistic scenario, black printing and a picture of Sergio Ramos on the floor is like, we're not the best anymore. And to be honest, it didn't come as a surprise to me, but apparently it came as a surprise to a lot of them. In AS, they're a little bit less fatalistic. They call fin de ciclo, an end of an era. I think that's more in the right line of what the press should do. It is true that we've been seeing this era kind of starting to end progressively. It's not true that it ended yesterday because they lost to Italy unexpectedly. I think this era has been ending with the loss of important players that represented the style of this national team. Xavi Alonso, Puyol, even Iker Casillas, David Villa. So this kind of transition has been happening for a while. And I don't know if it's just fair to say end of an era, maybe end of the winning era and the title era. Now they'll have to wait for another tournament to regain some of the thrones, let's say the world throne or the European throne. But I think it's more about a transition and not the end of an era and being fatalistic. But still, end of a winning era for sure for Spain. And of course in sport, in their normal line, it's more important to them the fact that Messi is leaving the national team. To be honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Messi was in the heat of the moment and the sadness and of course the frustration that represents, losing 4 finals in 7 years. But I don't see Messi not playing the World Cup of Russia. To be honest with you, I think he should play, and especially because if he's the captain and the leader of this whole generation, the best player in history, I don't think is the paper or the role of a captain and a player to say after a defeat, especially after a defeat, I'm leaving. It's like, I'm tired of losing and I'm leaving. So I don't think it's going to happen. And of course, they call failure, which I think weirdly is the more accurate description in all the press of what happened to Spain. It's a failure. Maybe not the end of a cycle, maybe not being the best or not anymore, but it is a failure. I think they had their chance to go on the easy side of the matches if they had not messed up against Croatia. They didn't. There were some signals that were not maybe seen or perceived by Del Bosque, and yeah, it's a failure. Again, you have always to know that you're playing against other teams, and Italy is a great team, probably a strong candidate now to win the Euros. So it's always between two teams, not only one. But it is a failure. So yeah, weirdly, again, Sport made an accurate headline. But yeah, that's what the press has to say today. Galacticos, let us know what you think. Do you agree? Do you think these guys are crazy, or they're being too fatalistic, or not fatalistic enough? Let us know, and we'll see you in the follow and follow. Follow and follow. Follow and follow. Ashley, follow and follow.
Follow and follow. We'll start with the positive. Follow. My big ups for this week, or these last couple of weeks, is Antoine Griezmann. And
The little prince.
The little prince, el principito. I love him in Atlético de Madrid. I love what he's done this season, but especially this Euro Cup, because we're talking about this, and especially this last match against Ireland. He came up big time. He scored 2 goals, and I think he's playing huge in this tournament. He's showing us that he is one of the best strikers in the world. And I think what a lot that he's learned at Atleti is to have patience, is to play both sides of the ball. I mean, he runs all the time. He's always tracking back on defense, and he can
also maybe make the most of
your
few chances that you have.
Exactly.
He had 3 and put in 2.
And so he's a player that has a knack for scoring goals, puts away his opportunities, and I have no complaints about him.
So Griezmann, we follow you. Well, she follows you.
I follow you.
Unfollow.
Unfollow, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the segment, will be Del Bosque. And, I know you're not that emotionally invested in the Spanish national team, but I sort of am, and I'm really disappointed in this Euro Cup with this Del Bosque, and for a number of reasons, starting with the players that he brought and the players that he left out, especially the players that he left out. I mean, I think that forwards, we were lacking forwards. I think, Diego Costa didn't have a great season, but I would have brought Diego Costa. Yeah. I would have definitely brought Saul. I probably would have brought Isco, and I think that he has this problem making changes in his roster, making changes in the way they play. I mean, yes, Spain was amazing for that 8-year run, and the World Cup was a disaster. And I think this Euro Cup was sort of a disaster.
It started out pretty well, with sensations, but it ended up not well at all.
Well, yeah, and then if you look at the way that the changes that he's making, I mean, he kept basically the same 11 players, didn't make any changes. Even when it didn't work, he didn't make changes. And the changes that he made that in the last match against Italy were just sort of questionable. Why weren't you making changes earlier? Why didn't you put Lucas Vázquez in earlier? Why did you take out Morata when you saw that Aduriz needed to come out? Those sorts of things. And then you're putting in Pedro at the last minute. I mean, I think he could have. There's young. Spain is not lacking talent, but they're lacking a coach or a trainer that can bring together these great players and do something with them, something innovative, something dynamic.
What they need is to be re-motivated.
Right, and motivate the players. It sort of, honestly, it looked like he was sitting on the bench like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And so, unfollow for Del Bosque.
My unfollow for the week. My follow is for Antonio Conte. I think, in the same line.
I was thinking about him.
I think, Conte gave a tactical bath to Del Bosque yesterday. I love what Italy's doing. I love how he's assembled this very powerful squad, very organized. That they all know what they're doing. They're a block. And especially the fact that they came to these Euros without big names, or without names that, the press can say, this is a great team. And to me, after all I've seen of this Euro, I'm going to say now, well, I said England before, but of course that's not a chance anymore. But I think that, it's going to be very hard for any of the teams left in the Euro to beat Italy.
And I think that what you see, this is what I've noticed about the players, is that when you watch those Italian players on the team on the pitch, I mean, they really believe that they're going to win.
Yeah.
And they have no qualms about believing that they're better than you.
And I think Conte is probably, the biggest person to blame for all that. So follow to Antonio Conte. And my follow will be for the England's manager, for Hodgson. I had, I'm not English, of course, but I had a lot of
hope for them.
Yeah, a lot of hope for England. That maybe finally this will be the time that, without this many stars and with fresh young players and all, it was going to happen. But I was wrong, dead wrong. And I think a lot of that had to do with Hodgson and his inability or incapability to react, to make changes, to adapt the team to the necessities of the game.
To do what a coach needs to do.
To do what a coach needs to do. For example, Vardy, I don't think Vardy would have, put England in the final. But, every time he came in, he changed the game for England. He scored important goals, or one important goal in the only game that they won. But he kept playing him on the bench and bringing him on a little bit too late. I don't know. I think it was a waste of all the talent that England had in the squad.
Their squad was incredible.
Incredible. I think it was a waste of talent. And so unfollow for Hudson. That was for us, Galacticos, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The press, the follow and follow. I want to know what it was for you. Are you happy and happy with everything that's happened these last 2 weeks? Let us know. Give us a like and subscribe. And
see you later.
Yeah.
Alligator.
Take this to the bank.